Society tells us to be married to our jobs, 1000% committed to our employers, but I'm here to tell you that there are certain situations that warrant you to get out of there. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. My name is Nicole Nyasha and I share career related content. So if you enjoy this, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. In this video, I'm sharing 5 reasons or 5 situations that should trigger in your mind that it's time to think about moving forward. It's time to think about the next opportunity and leave your current job. The very first reason is if it's impacting your mental health. If a job has just become so stressful for you, it's giving you anxiety, you can't sleep at night, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about some report you're supposed to submit or a meeting you're supposed to have, and you're just not settled, that's not healthy, and you need to consider getting yourself out of that situation. The bad thing about your job impacting your mental health is it not only impacts your mental health, but it impacts people around you. So it's going to indirectly impact your husband, your wife, your children. Whoever is around you is going to get impacted when you start experiencing mental health issues that are work related. Nothing, absolutely nothing is worth you going through a mental health crisis. No amount of money, no amount of benefits, it's just not worth it. Your peace of mind is important, so you need to value and prioritize your peace of mind. Now, obviously, in every job, there'll be seasons that are stressful. For example, if you're an accountant, you know that at the beginning of the month is going to be a stressful period because you need to round up the books from the previous month. But I'm talking here about situations where all day, every day, throughout all seasons, your job is stressing you and it's giving you serious anxiety. The next reason to consider moving is if there's no more room for growth and you've stopped learning. This is really going to impact you because you're not going to feel fulfilled, you're not going to feel actualized if you're just going to work or logging into work and you're doing nothing all day. So you want to make sure that you're in a job where you still feel challenged, there's still room to learn new things, there's still concepts you haven't grasped, and there's always something different that's going on. Nobody, well, correct me if I'm wrong, wants to be in a job where they just sit and do nothing all day. That is not fulfilling. But before you even think about leaving that job, you also want to make sure that you've put in the effort. So maybe you've spoken to your management about new initiatives, you've tried to bring in new things and try and bring in change and just try and create opportunities for yourself. But if there's really nothing that can be done, you've absolutely reached the ceiling and there are really no more opportunities for you, then you might want to consider moving on to a different company. Maybe you might want to look for a bigger company in this case that might have bigger projects and more varied things for you to work on. If you work in a toxic environment, you need to consider moving. I get that toxic environment is a term that's thrown around very loosely, but you need to define it for yourself. If you feel like you're in an environment and it's toxic, it could be that your manager is abusive, then you might want to consider moving. You don't want to go to work and your manager is scolding you and is abusing you all day, every day. You don't want to go to a job and people don't speak to you politely. People don't speak to you respectfully. You don't want to work in a job and you have a situation where maybe you do something wrong and your manager yells across the room or yells at you in a meeting in front of everybody else. That's very demeaning and it's not a nice environment to work in. Now, if it pertains to just a manager who's very toxic, but you're fine with the company, you're fine with everything else, then you might want to consider speaking to HR about moving departments or transitioning to something different. But if that doesn't work, then you might want to consider moving to a new company. If you work in an environment where maybe there are some toxic people on the team and the management is aware of it, HR is aware of it, but no one's doing anything about it, then you might also want to consider moving on to a new organization because that shows that your management and your HR is tolerating that behavior. The fourth reason to consider changing your job is if you're underpaid. Now, depending on what stage or what level you are in your career, you obviously need your job to meet your basic needs. If you need to pay your rent, if you need to pay your mortgage, you need your salary to be able to take care of. If you go to work every single day and at the end of the month you're not able to take take care of your bills, then there's something grossly wrong with that. If you've spoken to your manager about a salary increase and nothing is being done about it, then you might want to consider moving on to something else. You should also bear in mind that you can't just go to your manager and say, okay, my rent has increased, so I need a salary bump. You need to be able to justify through your work and through the value that you bring in the company why you are deserving of a higher salary. But when you are applying for new jobs, you're looking for new opportunities, you should always keep in mind whilst you're doing a salary negotiation that you need your salary to support the lifestyle you want to live. The final reason I'm going to share is if your interests have changed. Life happens, situations change, circumstances change, and we just grow out of things. And so if you've reached a point in your career where you're tired of your job, you don't enjoy it anymore, it's just become a drag, every single day is the same, you first of all obviously want to try and spice things up a little bit. Maybe talk to your manager about switching your role, talk to your manager about adding on and removing certain tasks or elements of your job that you just don't enjoy anymore. If you've tried that and it doesn't work and there are no other opportunities for you in that company that would interest you, then you want to consider moving on to something that's going to interest you. We spend the majority of our time working, anywhere between 30 to 60 hours in a work week, and so you definitely want it to be worth your while. You don't want to spend all that time miserable and doing something that you don't like. The worst thing that can happen to you is being in a job and being miserable. So if you no longer enjoy yourself, that is reason enough to move on to something new. I have a page on Instagram dedicated to job search tips, and I recently shared 4 different career paths that you can consider if you're in a situation where you're confused. So I would highly recommend you go check that out. But those are the 5 situations that if you find yourself in any of them, you definitely should consider making a move. Like I said, we spend the majority of our time at work, and so you want it to be worthwhile for yourself. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.